fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Voyager class Galvatron from the Transformers Studio series from Hasbro. You can see right here on the front that he is number 90 from Transformers Age of Extinction. Some nice artwork of the robot mode here on the front. Spin around to the side, we get a close-up of that robot mode. Spin around to this side, kind of the same artwork that's here on the front. And then around on the back, we have the robot mode, we have the vehicle mode. Not really too much going on the top or the bottom. So yeah, pretty standard packaging here for the Studio Series. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of the box and we'll take a closer look. So here's Galvatron with the backdrop that's included. I think it works really well. He fits in the space very nicely. And it's a pretty cool little scene. Very indicative of the finale of Age of Extinction. Some nice artwork here. And honestly, it's just kind of nice to get something that's not that same opening scene from Bumblebee, because that was like the last 5 Studio Series figures that we got all came with the exact same scene. So it's just nice to get something new, and it looks really good. So here's Galvatron out of the packaging, and honestly, I think he looks pretty good. A lot of nice molded in detail throughout the body. Nice balance of the dark gunmetal gray plastic with the silver paint for highlights. You have some additional paint applications here on the chest, a little bit of blue, some chrome right there. I think the head sculpt looks good. Nice red eyes. Again, some blue paint there for highlights. Really nice and silver there. But you can just see all of the molded detail throughout all of the body. He doesn't have a ton of car kibble. You can see a little bit of it here in the thighs, but the backpack is pretty compressed. Certainly more compressed than the original Age of Extinction Galvatron figure. I think this is definitely an improvement to that. And it clips in here really nice and solidly. There's a little clip on this piece that clips into this top section here and really just keeps it nice and tight and solid against the back there. And it's nice. I mean, it's kind of hard to look at this and figure out how it's going to transform into a truck. I mean, obviously you can tell that this backpack section will be involved. But, I mean, you know, it's pretty nice and lanky robot. He really doesn't have a ton of kibble in a lot of places, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. He's got these 2 accessories. He's got this little missile pod section here. Now, the directions don't tell you that you can clip it into these 2 sections on the arms, but you absolutely can. You can see how he just has that little slot right there, and there's just a rectangular peg, and you just kind of pop that on there. So I just kind of figured that out myself, because the directions don't tell you what to do with this thing other than open up the chest, and he's got a really big hollow chest, and you can see there's a little spot right there, and they want you to peg this in inside. I don't know why, but you can store it in there if you want. He's also got this piece that fits over the fist to kind of make it look like, you know, it's one solid piece of the arm turning into the gun, which is kind of cool. So we'll just go ahead and pop that out. It's a little snug, but you can get it off of there, so we'll put that off to the side. So yeah, he's got this massive open chest cavity, so if you had something else you wanted to put in there, any other accessories, you know, he should be able to store, you know, a decent amount of stuff in there. I mean, it's a pretty giant cavity, so if you wanted to steal the Matrix from Optimus or something, he could definitely just pop it in there. Wouldn't really be able to peg in, but you could easily throw a Matrix in there if you wanted to. So articulation-wise, the head can spin from side to side. It is a ball joint. You don't get a ton of up and down movement. And I would say pretty much no tilt side to side. But you can look side to side, no problem. Look down ever so slightly. That's pretty much just looking straight forward. You have a hinge here in the shoulder, as well as a hinge this way. So really a rotation and a hinge. You have a bicep swivel. You have a double jointed elbow, which is really more for transformation, but absolutely can utilize it here in robot mode. The forearm and the wrist and the fist and everything, they're all one solid piece, so there's no movement there at the wrist. You can get a swivel in the waist as long as you don't have the legs kind of knocking in, so you can see he does have, you know, this hinge here on the side of his thigh for transformation. So just make sure that that's clear, and then you could totally utilize the waist movement there. Otherwise, kick pretty far forward. Kick decently back. Again, you start to run into hitting the backpack there. Can't really kick too much out to the side if you're straight like that, but if you just do a little bit, then you can kick a little bit out to the side. So again, it's really just mitigating this hinge in the backpack. So if you just kind of move it around, you can get some decent side kicks. You just can't go straight on, kick out to the side much further than that. You do have a thigh swivel, of course, so you can utilize that there. I would say a little bit over 90 degrees there in the knee. This wheel piece does kind of pop out a decent amount just when you're moving around, but you just push it right back down. And then, of course, you do have ankle tilt. And he's got some decent feet with some decent heels, so he really doesn't have too much trouble standing as long as you just put him at the right angle. But he's not really back heavy or anything, so you don't really have to worry about that. You know, he's got pretty good weight distribution, so it really shouldn't be too difficult getting this guy in some good poses here. And he looks cool. I like him a lot. I really do. I think they did a really nice job with this. Let's go ahead. We'll get into the transformation because it's an interesting one. So if you do have any of the accessories still attached, like the gun in the hand, or if you have that missile pod in there, you got to make sure to take all that stuff out because you are going to need that space. So we're going to come around to the back here. We're going to unpeg this, and this is that clip I was talking about. You can see that there's a little spot right there, and there's a little clip right there, and it really just pegs in and really just kind of keeps that all really nice and solid. So I do appreciate that, but we're going to go ahead and flip that down just like so. We are going to flip down the chest section here. We're going to kind of lift that head up as far back as we can so that we can spin the head around 180 degrees to about there. And then we are going to flip this section up ever so slightly. We're going to spin the forearms around at the bicep 180 degrees. And then we're going to just bring those fists up pretty much just straight away like that. And then you're going to unhook the shoulders. You can see that there's a little clip. You can probably hear it better than you can see it, but there's a little clip right there. So you unhook that, and you can kind of see there's going to be the front of the truck. So we're going to bring this around, and you kind of have to bring this down, but you want to make sure that these little pieces here on the top of the shoulders clear this. So you kind of have to bring this in most of the way. Then you need to push the head down and really push it in as far down as you can, so that kind of brings this top section of the truck down. And you can see right there, there's a tiny little peg that's going to peg in. So you kind of have to just bring this down as far as you absolutely can and then pop that in. You need to make sure that it's, you know, pretty much filling in this space here. And then you're going to flip these little panels up like so. And then this is going to come down and fill in this empty space right here. So it can be a little difficult, especially because this double hinge doesn't always want to cooperate, but you have to make sure that it kind of sits flush here, and still you can clear the hands and the arms and make sure all of this is cooperating. And if you need to bring the arms out a little bit, you can, because we're going to move them in a second anyway. But you want to make sure that this comes down, and then there are these tiny little clips right there that are just going to make these panels stick together. And it really can be kind of a pain in the butt, but it might take a couple times of making sure that that Galvatron, sorry, head is all the way down in there. And then you kind of have to bring this up so that this can snap in together. I think that should be good. So at this point, you're going to kind of put the hands back, and you're going to... Oh, you know what it is? I see exactly what the problem is. There's the ever smallest little spot where that has to sit in, and that's why it was making sure, because those spikes on the shoulders really can get in the way. So just make sure that they're in kind of like the little hole for that they're meant to go in, and then you're going to kind of rotate the arms at that bicep swivel so they're kind of towards each other, just so that they tuck in a little bit better like that. And then you can kind of bring this up to kind of keep that all in place like that. So that's pretty much the front of the cab for the most part. And now we can kind of come down here and start working on the legs. So there is a joint here. So you're going to unhook the waist piece and swing that all forward. You're not going to just swing the legs up. You actually have to unhook this piece, which can be a little difficult to grab onto, but you can see right there that the whole waist piece comes down and kicks forward like that. So now that we have this piece, we're going to come around to the back, and these panels here kind of loosely tab into the wheels. I don't think there's an actual wheel spot, but they just kind of tuck into the hollow area of the wheel, the back there. So you kind of have to just pull that away so that this little tab right there can clear, and then you're going to flip these up like so. Then you can come back around. Then you see this hinge right here. This is going to flip up at that hinge like so. And then you're going to kind of rotate this around and just kind of let it hang there for the moment. We're not going to do anything more with that just yet. So now we come to the feet, and the feet can be kind of interesting with how this goes. You're going to start by just kind of flipping these all the way out. So just splay them like so. Then you're going to tuck this over as far as that will go. Then you have to kind of bring these down like this so that you can flip out these second wheels like that, and then flip out the second one over there. Then you're going to bring this up and rotate this up like this. So up again, and then rotate that up. And then you're going to peg all of this together. So you can see that there's a giant massive peg right there. That's going to peg in there. And then there's a peg here that's going to peg in right there. So we're going to peg all of that together. Make sure we line this all up. Get that all pegged in. There we go. So we'll straighten this out a little bit. So you can kind of see, starting to take shape here. So this is kind of the most difficult part in my opinion, because this panel here that was the chest kind of gets in the way. But you can see here that this hinge right here is kind of meant to sit in that little area there. So you kind of have to like lift this over, and it kind of helps if you like use the knees of the robot mode. But you have to kind of like bend this down ever so slightly so that you can clear this. Because you have to kind of lift this over. And then once you have it down, you can kind of bring it back. And then use those hinges to bring that further down. And then you can see that this is going to kind of become the entire side panel of the truck. So you bring this in. And then trying to just line up the panels. And they will peg in like so. So you can see that there's a big tab here, and that's going to tab in on the inside. So bringing that in and tabbing this all together. There we go. And then if this piece naturally goes down, that's where it's supposed to go anyway. So you can kind of hear some of these panels starting to click into place. So that is basically the back section there of the truck. You're going to flip these little wheels forward like so. Then you kind of just bring the front bumper down. And then this little piece, you can see here that there are two slots right there. And they're going to peg onto these pieces, which is nice because this is kind of loose on mine. So it's nice to have this to kind of come down and really shore up this section by pegging in just like so. So that really keeps that nice and together. And then you're just going to take these little pieces and they're just going to fill in that empty space there that was just previously filled by the wheels. And there you go. I feel like this isn't quite down all. There we go. There we go. Okay, so yeah, there we go. There is our truck mode. So it's a pretty cool little truck mode. It rolls pretty decently. Nice color scheme. Again, we have kind of the nice mix of the gunmetal gray plastic with the silver paint for highlights. And then, of course, you have the black here for the wheels. This, I don't know if this is supposed to be like a trailer hitch or whatever they're trying to pass this off as. It's really just his feet hanging out there. It's not that big a deal because really there's nothing else I need to put in this place anyway. But it is just kind of funny to have like this really nice cab and then these feet pieces just sticking out there. But again, the front of the cab here I think looks really good. Again, you have a little bit of blue here for accent color. And I don't have this quite. There we go. That's better. But yeah, I think it works well. I mean, they even have the grill kind of plastic molded into that hinge piece, so it really hides it well. You know, I wish this could be gray, but they have to kind of do it all in the one color, so I get it. But for the most part, I think that hinge really integrates into the grill well, and you don't really see it sticking out that much, which is nice. Now, you can store the weapons in this mode as well, so you can go ahead and open this up. So, whoops, I just popped it right off of the hinge. That is a new one on me, as I have not done that before. I guess it'll go from the back. There we go. So you can see that there is a little spot right there, and there is this kind of little notch, and so you can go ahead and peg that in right there to store that, and then you just close this back up and peg this back on like that. And then under here, and I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, But right there is a little notch on the side of one of his feet, and you're supposed to peg this into it. And it's a little easier said than done. And I think it looks kind of weird when you're done with it, but you take this, you can see this very obvious peg sticking out of this, and maybe you can see it a little better right there. So you kind of feed this in, and it kind of just pegs in right like this. Yeah, there we go. So it looks weird just hanging off there, but it works, and you can totally store it there. And then that way both weapons are stored in the vehicle mode. So honestly, to think about the kind of lanky robot we started out with and then have it transform into this cab, it's kind of spectacular, honestly. I think they did a pretty good job. It's pretty tight. It doesn't have a ton of like robot kibble hanging around with the exception of the toes. But yeah, I think they did a pretty good job hiding the kibble in both modes. And I think that's pretty fun, considering that in the movie, this is supposed to be just like a series of nanobots that just change shape very fluidly. It doesn't actually transform. It just kind of like is one form and then just shape changes into the other. And you could almost see that with this because it's hard to see the other mode, you know, hidden within the mode you're looking at. And I think that's kind of neat. So yeah, I think they did a pretty good job with this. So I think Galvatron is pretty great. I like him a lot more than I expected to. I think they did a great job of having the robot mode seem very lean and not really having a ton of kibble, which was very easy to do and something that they pretty much did with the original Age of Extinction Galvatron. And then having the truck mode be very kind of simplistic and compact and not have a ton of robot kibble being shown. So it's kind of a neat way of having both modes not really show exactly what they're going to turn into. I think they did a really nice job with that. Aesthetically, I think he looks great. Like I said, really nice molded detail throughout the body. Nice silver paint for highlights. You have a little bit of blue and gold as well. Some red for the eyes. I like the head sculpt quite a bit. I really like the accessories. We have this piece here that clips into the hand to kind of just make it look like the hand naturally transformed into the gun. We do have the weird missile accessory that they're very excited for you to peg into the chest, but don't even mention that you can also peg it into the arm. So if you wanted to just go ahead and peg that onto his arm, you certainly can. And then if you wanted him to store something else in the chest cavity, you certainly could, because it's pretty massive, honestly. For as skinny as the figure is, I would not have expected him to have such a massive chest cavity. I also really like the way that these panels peg in the back because it keeps it very tight and secure. Really doesn't have a ton of back kibble here. The backpack is very compressed. Doesn't really hinder articulation at all, so I think they did a really great job with that. And just, you know, aesthetically, style-wise, I think he's very cool. This is definitely an improvement over the original Age of Extinction Galvatron. I could definitely say that. And I recommend adding him to your collection. Like I said, he was kind of a surprise for me. The transformation is very intricate, but once you do it once or twice, it's pretty simplistic in terms of like getting it down. So I think it's a really good transformation. Like I said, very smart, a little intricate, but with a little bit of practice, you'll have it down in no time. So I definitely recommend adding this guy to your collection. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.